a single empire in Europe would take over a quarter of the planet's land and population. The foundations began on the lands of England, with a powerful British monarchy igniting an extraordinary story of exploration and world domination. The British Empire saw the greatest stories of human achievement and triumph, but also saw the worst sides of humanity. After the discovery of America around 500 years ago, they ventured out into the oceans. The British would encounter unknown civilizations, creating historic partnerships and rivalries. Within 4 centuries, the empire would be worth over $600 billion. But how did an empire that owned parts of the Americas, Asia, Africa, and even Australia eventually come to an end? We must start from the beginning. Long before the knowledge of far-flung places, a man by the name of King Alfred the Great had to defend his small Anglo-Saxon kingdom from the invading Danish Vikings. In 878 AD, the Vikings under Guthrum launched a massive invasion, and Alfred was forced to retreat to the marshlands of Somerset, where he sought refuge on the Isle of Athelney. Alfred used this time to regroup and gather loyal followers. He formed a strong army, and in a decisive battle at Edington, he defeated the Viking leader Guthrum. The victory forced Guthrum to sign the Treaty of Wedmore, which established the Dane Law, a region of England where Viking rule was officially recognized, but also secured peace between the Vikings and the Anglo-Saxons. He then began the process of unifying all of the Anglo-Saxon kingdom, which his grandson Aethelstan would finish. In 924, when Aethelstan ascended to the throne of Wessex, his rule faced opposition and challenges from rival claimants, particularly from the Viking-controlled areas of Northumbria and Mercia. Despite these obstacles, Aethelstan proved to be a capable and determined leader. In 927 AD, Aethelstan managed to conquer Northumbria and effectively unite England under his rule, which led Aethelstan to be the first king of England. 200 years later, that battleground would be set when English King Henry II wanted to expand his kingdom to Ireland. In the spring of 1171, King Henry II, accompanied by a retinue of knights and soldiers, sailed from England to Waterford, Ireland. Upon his arrival, he quickly set about asserting his authority, demanding the submission of various Irish kings and chieftains to his rule. Henry was determined to establish English control over Ireland, and firmly believed that the Irish kings should acknowledge his sovereignty. As news of King Henry's arrival spread across the island, reactions among the Irish leaders were mixed. However, when various Irish bishops and clergymen met at the Synod of Cashel in 1171, these religious leaders recognized Henry II as the sovereign ruler of Ireland, acknowledging his authority to rule the island, making Ireland the first colony of England, long before anyone knew they would be a global empire. Another 100 years later, in 1277, King Edward I of England wanted to bring Wales under his control and incorporate it into his kingdom. His desire to conquer Wales was driven by strategic, political, and territorial motivations. The journey towards the conquest of Wales began with the First Welsh War in 1277. Edward I launched a determined invasion into Gwynedd, the heartland of Welsh resistance in North Wales. His forces clashed with the Welsh defenders. Though fierce and relentless, the Welsh were eventually defeated, and their ruler, Prince Llewellyn, was compelled to submit to Edward's authority. Having established his dominance in Gwynedd, Edward I set out to solidify his control over Wales. He understood that military might alone not be enough to subdue the Welsh spirit of resistance, so he devised a multi-pronged strategy. One of the critical components of his plan was to construct a network of imposing fortresses across Wales to maintain English dominance and keep the Welsh in check. Despite the initial show of force, Welsh resistance persisted, and in 1282, a second conflict erupted known as the Second Welsh War. The war was fierce and hard-fought, but fate was not on the side of the Welsh. With the Welsh resistance largely quelled,